Welcome to Michelle's Making. Are you ready for coffee, crafts, cooking, and cocktails? Let's get going.
Welcome and welcome back to those of you who are returning. I really do appreciate it. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already and share with your family and friends. I appreciate that too. Let's talk about today. It is Roof Over Your Head Day, Faux Fur Day, and Bartender Day. So during this holiday season, especially following the closure of so many places during the pandemic, but the opportunity now to go out and have a dinner or enjoy cocktails, make sure you remember your bartenders and your wait staff and take care of them during the holidays too. We're going to enjoy coffee. Today it's sugar cookie creamer in my coffee, and it's yummy, very seasonal. We're going to make it a great one. Let's get going.
Today I'm making oatmeal date cookies. I just love making cookies this time of year. I'll make them, I'll eat them, I'll give them away. But for this, you use all-purpose flour, baking soda, baking powder, salt, eggs, shortening, vanilla, brown sugar, granulated sugar, chopped walnuts, chopped dates, and I throw in cinnamon also. I'll link the recipe in the description box. But it starts out like most classic cookie recipes. You take your shortening or your butter, this recipe calls for shortening, and cream it well. Add your sugars and let that cream really well. Meanwhile, I have sifted together the dry ingredients. So the flour, baking soda, baking powder, and salt should all be sifted together, or if you don't have a sifter, just stir it well with a fork. If you don't have a lot of baking experience, keep in mind when you measure flour or sugar, granulated sugar rather, it should be not packed into the measuring cup. It should be loosely spooned into the cup. Brown sugar, however, is typically measured packed. So you push it down into the cup that you're measuring. So you see when you pour it into your butter or your shortening, you end up with a big blob, a lump that lands in there. So it's important that it gets mixed well and scrape the bowl down as needed so that everything is well incorporated. I forgot to mention, you do need oatmeal for these oatmeal date cookies. As you cream the shortening and the sugars together, it's going to get lighter and fluffier, and that's what you want. After that, you'll add your eggs, one at a time, mixing well after each addition. After the eggs, you add your vanilla. And for those of you who have watched my cookie making before, you know I love vanilla, and I almost always double the amount of vanilla that the recipe calls for. And that's what I did here. Don't forget, scrape the bowl down as needed. Next, you add your dry ingredients that have been sifted together. Make sure you add a little at a time. That allows it to get well incorporated, and it also prevents that flour cloud from going up in your face. Once this is well creamed, you scrape your bowl and your beater because you're going to mix the oatmeal, walnuts, and dates in by hand. First, you stir in your oatmeal. Next, you'll add your chopped dates and your chopped walnuts. Now, you could substitute a different nut if you don't care for walnuts. You could do pecans or really any kind of nut, or omit the nuts entirely if you don't care for them. This twist with the dates rather than oatmeal raisin was because I didn't have any raisins on hand, but I did have the dates. Now remember I said I was going to add cinnamon because I love cinnamon in oatmeal, so I just added that even though the recipe didn't call for it. But after everything is well mixed, you spoon it onto your cookie sheets that have been lined with parchment paper. The parchment paper is wonderful, so when you remove the cookies from the cookie sheet, you just slide the parchment paper right off the cookie sheet and the cookies go right onto your counter. Granite or stone counters help the cookies cool, and that works fine to slide them just directly onto the counter. If you have some other kind of counter, you might want to slide them onto a baking rack to keep them a little elevated and help them cool. But there you have our delicious oatmeal date cookies, and let me tell you, they're delicious. So make some and enjoy. The first craft today is going to be a revolving table stand. This, I used some things that I had around the house. First of all, a ceiling medallion that came down with our remodel. So I ended up taking that, and also a glass candlestick that I picked up at Goodwill. I think maybe that was $2 or $2.50. And I painted them both using the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in linen white. For the top tray of this stand, I had picked up a plate charger at Hobby Lobby when it was on clearance, and I just thought it was really pretty and delicate looking, and it turns out it looks really well with that ceiling medallion. I thought the patterns complemented each other, and that's going to be my top plate. On the bottom of the medallion, I added a Lazy Susan mechanism that I had picked up at Amazon. I want to say it was $4 or $5. But as I was attaching it to the medallion, because it had different layers there, you can see the center ring and then the outer ring were a little higher than that inner portion. So I did end up having to add some washers underneath the mechanism to help the screws, the spacing of the screws work better. But it just took a couple of washers on each screw, and 4 screws is what it took. So I attached those to the bottom of the medallion. I did add some of the Clear Grip Gorilla Glue to the end of each of the screws. Since the holes I drilled them once before I realized that I had to use washers, and I was afraid that it'd be too loose, so I did add that glue. Once that was done, I gave everything a light distressing, dry brushing type technique with the antique wax. And I did this on the medallion, the painted candlestick, and the top plate as well. Next, I used my Clear Grip Gorilla Glue to attach the candlestick to the base, the medallion, and also to attach the plate charger to the top. And that's all there is to this revolving table stand. For now, I'm setting a little tabletop Christmas tree on it on my back porch table, but I've got some ideas for using it in the house later. Next, I made a simple little Tier Tray Birdhouse. I had picked these birdhouses up at Walmart. I believe they were 99 cents each. And I had done one for my fall table, and now I decided to do one for my Christmas table as well. So, of course, everything begins with taking the stickers off. This was really simple. I just painted it red and white and glued a little bird on the perch, and that was it. These are great little tier tray decor items, so keep that in mind when you're looking at the craft section in Walmart. For 99 cents and paint I already had on hand and the pack of birds I'd gotten a long time ago, I was good to go for this. And there you have it, a tier tray birdhouse. The next item I made today was a rustic tree. And this is something that, like I said, you never know when you look at something and you think of what it could be used for. This was actually a piece of a doll stand that my sister-in-law had some dolls, and this was a piece off of one of the stands that we were just clearing out some junk, and she was going to get rid of it, and I thought, I think I can make something with this, and it reminded me of the shape of a Christmas tree. So lo and behold, there it is. I'm going to turn it into a Christmas tree. And I began by taking some twine and just weaving it between the two down pieces there and pushing it up towards the top. As you'll see here as I go along, it's a little easier to watch than it is to describe. Just keep going on with this all the way to the bottom, and then I just used hot glue to secure it at both ends. For the star on the top, I had these little wooden stars or snowflake type thing that I picked up at Dollar Tree. I think there was like 12 in a pack for $1, and then took a little wooden bead for the center and glued it with hot glue. And then I used some silver metallic acrylic paint that I had and painted the star for the top. Once I had painted both sides, I just used hot glue to adhere it to the top of the tree. And that's all there was to this rustic tree. After it had been glued to the top, I touched up the silver paint a little, just to give it a little more sparkle. And that's it for our rustic tree that I have tucked in one of my tabletop decors. Now it's time for that refreshing adult beverage, and today I'm having a Kinky Cocktail. Don't forget, the recipe's always going to be in the description box. For this, I'm using Kinky liqueur, triple sec, lime juice, and Jose Cuervo ready-to-drink light strawberry margarita mix. Everything is added to the shaker. And this is a drink that's poured over ice into a cocktail glass. And don't worry, that recipe's there for you. So I hope you give this a try. It's a really refreshing drink. And that's our Kinky Cocktail.
Well, folks, that's it for another week. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to take time to stop and smell the coffee. Make it a great week, and I'll see you next Friday.